Hey everyone, welcome back to Today in Tech. I am Michael Simon, once again filling in for the host that we don't have from Macworld, and I'm joined by Ken Mingus from Computer World. And today we're going to be talking about the OS betas.
It's beta
Apple,
day.
yeah, Apple released public betas for all of the operating systems coming out this fall. So that's iOS 16, iPadOS 16, macOS 13 Ventura, watchOS 9, which annoys me that it's not on 16. Like they should just
Right.
jump a bunch of versions and bring it to 16.
Yeah.
tvOS 16, which there isn't a whole lot to speak of. And is that it? Did I get them all? I think I
I
did.
think that's it.
I
Yeah.
did all of them. So yeah, there's some new stuff. There's some you know some interesting features that we'll talk about, our experiences, what we want to see, what we think will change, and any questions you have about any of this stuff, let us know. So I want to start with iPad, if that's okay, Ken.
Sure.
I assume you've played around with it.
I have been
Yours?
playing around with it. Yeah, I like Center Stage. Center
I
Stage
like
is
it
pretty
too.
cool, right?
No,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Center Stage, stage manager is what you're talking about. Center Stage is
Stage.
also a feature, but
Yeah,
that's not iOS 6. That's
that's
not
not new.
iPadOS 16. That's the camera thing.
Yeah.
Stage manager is the feature that's coming. Yeah, I also like it, but
Which for
I
you
have
on the iPad is saying something because you've been
yeah. Well,
complaining
I
about
I
the way
have
these
I
things work
have
for years.
reservations about it,
Okay.
but well, for one, I don't like the name. If that's fair. It's
Why?
not because it
What's in a name?
like what is the stage and what is it managing?
Well, the stage is your desktop or on the iPad and
Since when?
home
Like
screen.
when is it ever called
You've
a
got
stage
you've got
thing?
Center Stage at the top for the camera, Stage Manager for the apps on your iPad or your
Center stage makes more sense to me because, like you're recording, it's a video thing, and the center stage, it keeps you in the center of the picture. Like that works.
yeah,
Stage manager, I don't love, but ultimately, like, who cares? It doesn't matter what it's called.
yeah.
What it does, like, I do like, but I think we should have gotten it 5 years ago.
Well,
And
yeah.
and and that's not so that's two pronged. Like, for one, it's Apple is like I'm kind of putting down the rest of the multitasking, which I've done for years. But when I say that, I feel like in 2 or 3 years, Stage Manager will be really good. Right now, it just feels like another way to do stuff. And there's still, it's still not as intuitive as it is on the Mac. Not even Stage Manager. Like, we'll talk about it on the Mac, but
Yeah.
Stage Manager on the iPad, it takes a little bit of time to kind of figure out. First of all, it was off by default when I installed iPad OS 16, so like you got to find it for one.
You have to turn it on, yeah.
Yeah. For two, it's not immediately obvious what it does. Like, you'll open an app and you'll get the windows off to the side, and you can click through those windows and they swap out, which is nice. The animation and the interface is good. But then like, as you play around with it, you realize, oh, wait a minute, I can resize this thing, because you've never been able to resize windows on the iPad before. So it's not something that you automatically go to do. On the Mac, we've been able to resize
Second
windows for,
nature
for
stuff.
30
Well,
years. Yeah. So
yeah.
like it's Windows too big, Windows too small. You just grab that corner and you go. It's not as obvious on the iPad because, again, this is the first time we've actually been able to do that. But once you realize it, it kind of opens up like, oh wow, this is interesting, because I can make this mail window really small, and then I can open up another window next to it, and then another window. Like, it really feels like, for the first time, I'm actually multitasking on the iPad rather than just looking at two things at
Well,
once.
yeah, exactly. The nice thing is that you can group these things in a
Yeah.
way that makes sense for how you're using the iPad. I know we're going to get into it in a minute, but on the desktop, the way I find what I like about it is it actually makes it more iPad-like. I have better focus on the desktop. We'll come to that later. But
Okay.
on the iPad, you're absolutely correct. It does feel like rather than just having two windows taking up the whole screen, which is the way you used to be able to kind of
Yep.
more or less multitask, you can have multiple windows, multiple apps.
Yeah, and like, that slide over thing never really did it
I
for
never
me.
could figure that out. I would
Yeah.
always slide something over, then it would pop up at weird
It-
moments, and I couldn't get rid of it, and I didn't
and it
like it.
was it wasn't every app, and it created a very truncated window no matter what you were doing. It wasn't great, or isn't great, because it's still there. That's my other problem is that the old multitasking is still there.
Yeah.
This is just another on top of what's there already, and like this is what they need to use. This is it. Now, the inherent problem there is that it only works on what, half of the line, maybe less.
Right.
Doesn't
What?
work on the iPad Mini, doesn't work on the entry level iPad, doesn't work on any older Air, and it doesn't work on any older Pro.
Right.
So it only works on three models that were released within the last 18 months. When was the iPad Pro released? Something about yeah, about 18 months. So it's going to take some time before every iPad is able to use it. And I don't think we're ever going to get there. The entry level iPad is never going to have an M1 ever. So that's out, which you can say, well, it should be a pro feature, and I kind of think it should be.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, if you're going to invest in this new way of multitasking, you're only using the highest end iPads. So you have to keep the old version around for the lower end iPads, and then it just gets very clunky. Like imagine the MacBook Pro could do floating windows, but the MacBook Air only could do split screen. Like it would be confusing.
Yeah.
It would be clunky. So I'm curious to see how Apple does this going forward. If maybe they release a stripped down version of Stage Manager that can work on the A series chips, because the iPad Mini has an A15, right?
Yeah. That should
Or
be.
A14, A15. It's still, I mean, it's a very good chip.
Yeah.
By the time we get to like the A17, that should be comparable to the M1 graphics wise. So maybe they'll bring it once the chip gets a little bit more powerful. Like I understand why they're limiting it. There's a lot going on there. Like when you click a window, things resize. Like and if it doesn't work as seamless and as fluid,
Smoothly. Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna really upset the experience. So it has to be right now an M1 feature.
I can't remember. I saw an interview with one of the Apple execs. I don't remember if it was Federighi or whoever, and they were saying because they were asked that question, why is this limited only to the upper models? And the exec, whoever he or she was, said something like, well, it technically works, but it's not working the way we would like for it to work. Which sounds like it might work, but it might be choppy resizing, of a window, or it's sluggish or something. And that would play right to what you're saying. As the chips get better over the next few years, they might be able to drop this feature down to
Yeah.
to the entry level models. It shouldn't make a difference. I mean, an iPad is an iPad Pro. I mean, the way you use them, especially
Hmm.
if you're going to multitask. I mean, I understand that there are hardware chip issues with this particular bit of software, but I mean, somebody using an iPad would probably want to multitask in the same way that someone using an iPad Pro would. I mean, I don't see that there's a
Yeah.
real difference there.
Yeah, so it brings up the question I've always had about the iPad is what makes the iPad Pro?
Pro.
Like on the Macs, it's clear. For one, the chips are way faster. The design is different. The screen is bigger and it's better. You got the promotion stuff now, and they're brighter. And there's a number of features. You get more ports. None of that is true on
Yeah.
the iPad. Yes, the 12.9 inch has a better screen, but marginally. You know, spec wise, it's way better. In reality, it just looks a little bit better. It's not that big of a jump. Chip is better, but you don't necessarily need it. It's bigger. I'll give you that. But and so,
That's not enough. Just the size alone's not enough.
yeah, I agree. And so a feature like this is a good differentiator. But as you say, then you get into a whole world of like, well, is it an iPad? Is it an iPad? Like I can do this on that and that on the other. It's like when you start messing with the interface and the navigation of it, that you change inherently like what it is and what it does, and then you really start separating not just by features, but by like actual. It's a different device.
Yeah.
So that's by far the marquee feature there. It also bugs me that you cannot do any of the iOS 16 lock screen stuff
That was going to be my bet
on
noir.
the
Yeah.
iPad. Like what
Yeah.
on earth? This is
Because
the same thing that happened last year.
Yeah, well, and again, we'll get to this when we get to iOS 16. I did not really think the changes to the lock screen in iOS 16 for the phone were that big a deal.
No,
Being
they
able
are.
to add to my whatever, having used it,
Yes, it's
and
awesome.
you actually, it actually is a big deal, and that's why I would like it in iPad 16.
Yeah, for
iPad
sure.
16.
So what's weird is all right, so Apple changed the font on the lock screen in iOS 16. That is a
Yeah,
huge deal.
yeah,
Since the dawn of the iPhone, we have had the same font for the numbers and the
yeah,
date.
yeah.
And now it's different. You can choose what, six, what, five or six of them.
I
I
think
forget what they are.
there's six or eight. Yeah, that
There's a
depends.
few of them, and they're very, very different.
Yeah,
It looks, and on the iPad, it uses one of them.
yeah,
So when you do your iPad for the first time in iOS 16 turn on, it's going to look a lot different just for the nature of the font. But
yeah,
that's it. You
yeah,
can't do anything else with it.
yeah.
You can't change
Well, it's,
do the
and
widgets, and you can't do the cutout thing with the photo, all that stuff.
Well, and especially, I mean, obviously with the iPad, it's a larger device. So the number of widgets and things, the amount of information you would be able to display on the iPad lock screen, could be
It's
really
great.
handy and useful.
Great.
On the iPhone, you're sort of limited, I
Yeah,
think, to like three slots there in
sure.
terms of the kinds of icons and the information you can get. On the iPad, you could stretch those things across,
Sure.
five deep and have a beautiful experience.
Better,
It
more
makes no sense
expansive.
not to have it.
None, none.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand why so we saw this with iOS 14 when they introduced the app library
Yeah.
to the iPhone and the iPad didn't get it. And also widgets. The iPad didn't get it. Now they got it the next year.
Yeah.
So iOS 15 had the lock screen and the widgets, but widgets are not nearly as good on the iPad as they are. Like they're bigger,
Yeah.
but you know, I think the main problem is the iPad is it's a landscape and a portrait mode device, and Apple hasn't figured out a way
Yeah.
to make it seamless. So, like with the widgets, widgets are stuck at the top of the screen. On the iPad, on the iPhone, you can put them anywhere because you can't turn that iPhone, and it's not gonna upset the view.
Yeah.
When you flip the iPad, things go in different places, icons go in different places, and then here's what I think they have to do: get rid of the grid completely
Yes. Yes.
on the
Absolutely.
iPad. Just
Yes,
get
please.
rid of it.
Yes. There's
Then
no
you don't
reason
have to
for that.
worry.
There's no reason
And
for that either way.
right. So then things are everywhere, so you move them and it just shifts naturally. The
Yeah.
grid is really truncating
It's
Apple's
limiting.
ability to make a really good home screen. The
Yeah.
lock screen, I have no idea why. Like okay, it's like there's nothing there on the lock screen. It's either this way or that way. You should be able to do that
Yeah.
without having it be an issue. And it's just one more thing. Like what? Who makes these decisions?
Well,
Like,
it's not,
I
I was
just I
just,
don't.
but
I was just gonna say I don't understand. It drives me nuts that there's an iOS 16 really good feature, like probably the most monumental customization feature we've gotten ever
yeah.
on the iPhone ever. And it's good. It's great. Like the cutout stuff on the over the clock is
The
awesome.
images,
The
everything. Yeah.
fonts are nice. The widgets are gorgeous. When we get that always on display, it's going to be great. But why do we not have it on the iPad?
Well,
I don't get it.
because Apple seems to be holding it back. I guarantee you, a year from
It'll
now,
come out next year,
we
but
will be
why?
talking about it. Finally gets to the iPad. I'm going to say it should have been, been here in 2022. But that is that would be the biggest change other than Stage Manager if Apple were to include it.
Yeah.
Didn't. So, you get some new, productivity gains, hopefully, by using Stage Manager,
Yeah, maybe.
but no other big major changes, I would
Yeah.
say. So what are we, iOS 16 next?
Yeah, well, so lock screen, great.
Love the lock.
Like,
Have you
excellent.
tried the lock screen, the one that's got the map of the world with the dots showing where you
Very
are?
cool.
And
Yeah.
that's actually really
The
cool.
weather one is awesome. Like they're
Yep.
really, really good. Like this was the biggest pain point for Android people was that, you're locked, for lack of a better word, into a very specific thing. This removed all of that, at least from the lock screen. The home screen's a little, still a little bit different. But the the lock screen, like it doesn't feel like an iPhone anymore.
No.
Like, there's not tons of customization, but there's enough. where it doesn't feel like you can really personalize and customize to the point where you don't know that you're using the same phone. It's
You
different.
can
It's
change.
very different
Well, and
in a
also
in
what's
a
really
in a
nice
great way.
is that you can set up multiple iterations of the lock screen. So
Yes.
you can sort of switch back and
Just
forth.
like just like your Apple Watch and the always on display. Like you can
Right.
swipe through them
You can
and
swipe
set up
through
different
them,
ones.
and some of them may be pictures, some of them may
Yep.
be just colors and gradients, different fonts, as you say. One question I have, do you think Apple will at any point open up the widgets that are available for the lock screen to third-party developers?
They already have. Yep.
Have they? Okay,
Yep.
good.
There's
I
a
didn't.
there's a widget kit, I think it's called,
Okay.
or something. And yes, developers can make their own little, the little
They're
those
not very
kind of, they're
big.
not monochrome, but they're like transparent.
Yeah.
They show little bits of information, but that's the point. If you want more, you unlock your phone and then do it. Like
Or
you
you
should be
put,
able to pick up your phone, look at the thing,
yeah.
and say, "Oh, I have there's oh the Mets are winning," or whatever you're
Stocks are
looking at,
up,
or I have an email,
paying
stocks are
soon,
down,
or
whatever it
something.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what they're for. And once that comes to the always on display in the iPhone 14 that we are almost certain to get
I was
now,
just going to say, are you sure that's actually
that's
going to
yeah.
happen? Because you keep talking about
It'll be an iPhone 14 Pro feature.
it. Okay.
And
Good.
I would bet lots of money if I could that that's coming.
Yeah.
And it's going to be great. They're going to be, that's what you're going to see. It's going to fade it, the picture and all that away. You'll see the clock, you'll see the date, and you'll see those little widgets.
Mhm.
And it's fantastic. Maybe a notification. I'm not sure how they're going to do that. They might not show notifications. Quite frankly, they're not all that useful
Yeah.
because you still got to pick up your phone. Once you pick up the phone, the lock screen goes on, you see them. So we'll see what they do with that. Maybe it'll be a badge or something. I don't know. I don't know. But I do know the widgets are going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Just to look at your phone on a desk or at a nightstand, be able to see the weather, the time, whatever alarms, whatever you want to put there. Excellent
Well,
stuff.
yeah, I mean, and also, I don't think this is specific to iOS 16, but the way some of the HomeKit stuff has been revamped to make it easier to get into like, your IoT devices at home,
Hmm.
sort of playing around with that. It's reorganized in a way that makes it, at least to me, a little more logical in terms of where my light bulbs are, which rooms I'm controlling, things like that. I do
Yeah,
like that.
it's a much better layout.
Yeah. I still have issues with like devices going offline, like could not be reached or whatever, and then you have to
Hmm.
check to make sure you're on the right network or that
All
you're
of
out.
that matter stuff should fix that
Yeah.
stuff, at
Yeah.
least going forward.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
I haven't noticed it as much since the beta.
I have I have a lot of smart home devices. I don't use home app much at all, and I'm hoping that this changes that.
Why not? Just
Because
because it doesn't
well,
seem to work.
because it's terrible.
Yeah.
Like right now, it's just a list of icons. Like I gotta like look through each one. Like where's this? That like it's just a mess.
Yeah.
This new layout and the functionality, along with using the Apple TV as a taking away the iPad as a hub and really kind of dialing into that Apple TV and or HomePod. I think that shows Apple is working towards a much better unified home. And like I said, this Matter stuff,
Hmm.
which will get Google, Amazon, and Apple, all those devices will work with all of that stuff just seamlessly going forward. That'll be much friendlier
Yeah.
for setting up a Siri based smart home.
Yeah. Have you tried any of the like the messages, like pulling back a
I
message?
I haven't because it doesn't. Well,
I know it only works.
I should have messaged you is what I should have
Yeah,
done
and then
before the
pulled it
show
back.
started.
Yeah.
But from what I can tell, the animation's great. It works great. I mean, there are still issues with, you know, for lack of a better word, privacy. But it's not really privacy. It's more of just like messing with people. Like
I didn't send you that
the
picture. What are you talking
yeah,
about? You're
right.
going
The
nuts.
the the potential for pranks and just
The
general
gaslighting.
maliciousness, yeah, is pretty high because you have 15 minutes to change it, which seems like a pretty big window.
Yeah.
I wonder if that'll get shortened as the beta goes on to like 5 or maybe even 1 minute
I think it
because you
should be
should
short.
know immediately like, all right, so I just sent a text right before the show and I meant to write and I wrote there.
Yeah.
Like if I had that, I would just quickly edit that. Like you should know. It shouldn't take 15 minutes for you to realize that, oh yeah, wait, I want to edit that. It should be instantaneous, like a typo or a spelling error.
Yeah.
And same thing with deleting. Like if I send something to the wrong person by mistake, I immediately know, oh, I didn't mean to send that to that Nancy.
Exactly. That's
Right.
the one
So like it
that's
should
where,
be immediate.
yeah, you would find that out. Well, isn't it, it's different the way it works with mail, isn't it? Don't you have to like undo a mail send within 10 seconds or something like that?
Mail is different. I don't know what the time is. I haven't used that. Let me see.
Okay. I thought that was a much
But
shorter
it
time.
is different. Google does it. Yeah, the Gmail one is it certainly is at 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, 15 minutes for undoing a message send, I agree, is way too long. I actually think 1 minute is probably too long. 30 seconds, 30 seconds seems like a reasonable
Yeah,
amount of
it's
time.
10 seconds in mail,
Yeah, that's what I thought.
which seems reasonable.
See, to me, I would actually go the opposite. I would say yeah, maybe a little bit more than 10 seconds. I mean, why would you go 15 minutes for a message and 10 seconds for an email?
Well, that's true. Yeah.
You know?
10, but I would be okay with 10 seconds for the message. I mean, 10 seconds, like that's enough.
Yeah,
Like I said, it should be instantaneous. Like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to write that, or I spelled that word wrong.
right.
Immediate. Like you see it immediately.
Yeah.
Like I can't remember if I ever sent a message and then 10 minutes later said, "Oh wait, I didn't mean to say that." Like it's not something that would happen. It's instantaneous.
Yeah.
So, but it is a good feature.
Agreed.
It should be noted only works with iOS 16 to iOS 16 and only works on iMessage. So you have to be within the iPhone to iPhone on iOS 16.
Right. So if let's say you update to iOS 16 in September, October, and you want to you want to delete a message you've sent to like mom who's still on iOS 15, until she upgrades, you might not be able to delete that message.
Well, I think it sends a message that says like this message has been deleted or something, but it doesn't delete the message because it can't.
Right.
So like she would know that you tried to
Why
delete
did
it.
you try to delete my message?
And
Yeah.
if you edit it, it'll send you the edited message again,
Yeah.
but it leaves the original because it can't.
Fortunately, once the new iOS rolls out, Apple device owners upgrade
Yeah.
very quickly. So
It'll be
most,
like 85% by the end
yeah,
of the
most
year.
people will be on iOS 16 within a month or
Yeah,
two.
if it was an Android feature, it would take years.
Forget it. It wouldn't. Yeah.
I mean, most phones can't even get it. Like it's a mess over there. There's too many devices, too many manufacturers. Apple, obviously, pretty locked down. But you'll need an iPhone 8 or later because they changed the compatibility. So the iPhone 7, iPhone 6s both got removed from. We expected the iPhone 7 to be included. It was not. So
Yeah.
iPhone 8 or later, which was 2017, I think. It was alongside the iPhone 10.
Yeah, that
But
sounds right.
anyway,
I'd have to go back and count. But
yeah.
anyway, yeah.
So
Any other things that come up that you like or dislike about iOS 16? I haven't had
mm,
any. You know what? Surprisingly, I've had very few glitches in terms of things breaking or things not working.
yeah, it's true. They're pretty stable. Stage Manager crashed for me once on the iPad, just once.
Yeah.
But yeah, all in all, it's more stable than they usually are at this time of the year.
Yeah.
There's probably four more betas, maybe more ahead of us.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean it feels pretty good. I think things are gonna. I think Stage Manager will probably get tweaked. I think things are gonna get tweaked. If you remember last year, so last year was the big Safari change,
Oh God, yes. I
and
remember.
that
Yes.
totally like they rolled that whole thing back by the time the beta came out. So they do make. I mean, but by the time the release came out, they do make changes. Apple does make changes. They take feedback seriously. So if you're using them, send them thoughts, send them suggestions, send them changes because they will listen to what you have to say.
Yeah. All right. Also wanted to get into the Mac OS
Yeah.
Ventura because that's where I really do find Stage Manager. We've talked in the past about the iPad and limitations with one app at a time or maybe two apps at a time, but it does allow you to sort of focus on one task at hand. And I have found with Stage Manager, you've got your apps open over here, your mail, your browser, your, whatever, your Word docs, whatever, and being able to sort of call up one app in front of you. And then, of course, you can group them, you can add, you can
Yep.
have as many windows as you want. But I find that it actually improves my focus on whatever it is I'm doing at the moment. And then I can always, like I say, check the email or whatever and have it come up or switch. It's almost like it brings some iPadness to the Mac desktop in a way that I actually find useful rather than confining. I don't know whether you've noticed that or felt that way.
I'm going to admit that I haven't actually used it on.
Okay.
I haven't installed Ventura, but
Okay.
um, I'm very set in my ways on the Mac. I don't know. I mean, I'll give it a shot, and I'm not mad at it for being there.
Yeah.
But
Well, you can turn it off. You don't have to use it.
yeah, right. So
No
here's an
problem.
example. Full screen apps. I've never done it unless I'm watching a movie.
Yeah.
I don't do split screen. I don't even use mission control. Like I'm very set in my ways
Yeah.
for like how I use my Mac. So like I have my windows on very specific spots.
Hmm.
I'll try it, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to use it on a Mac, and I think that's probably true for a lot of people who have been using the Mac for a long time.
Yeah, it would be a very big change in how people, are used to using a desktop. So I understand that.
Yeah.
I wanted to try it because it also gives me a bit of a unified feeling between the iPad and the desktop,
Yeah, well, that's for sure. Yeah.
which I really like. And now I have found it to be a bit glitchy in the desktop in the sense that if I've got three, four, five apps with the windows positioned exactly where I want them, and like, I switch off to like a single app when I come back, it feels like some of the apps that I've got grouped like get dropped from the group. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, didn't I have Slack open in this group, but it's not here, and I have to go back and drag it into the group. That's just beta issues, and it could also be user error. I may be doing something along the way when I'm switching windows or something that, it's working as it should function, but I'm screwing it up somehow. It doesn't stop me from using it. It's just something that I've noticed over the last couple of weeks.
Yep. Again, beta, and that's part of the pain of
Yep.
that's why I haven't put it on my Mac because like I need it. I don't have a spare Mac to throw a beta on, and if things aren't working, I'm in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Understood. So you haven't had a chance to try Continuity Camera either, then, right?
I haven't. But
Okay.
Roman has, and he raves about it.
Yeah.
Roman Loyola, our resident Mac expert, he thinks it's awesome. My only problem with that is you lose your iPhone. So like you put it on your Mac, and you start your meeting, and then you're like, I use my phone during meetings all the time.
Yeah.
For one, they might be boring, but for two, like I might actually need to use it for something.
Yeah.
And by putting it on your Mac, it takes away that ability. However, it's a great feature. It doesn't. I don't think it absolves Apple of the fact that they make very bad webcams for their Macs,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a good workaround.
It's definitely, yeah, it gives you some flexibility. Okay, well, listen, I see we're coming up on a hard stop in a couple of minutes, so I should probably ask any last thoughts in the next 20 seconds you want to offer up. When do we expect all this to roll out? September, October?
Yeah, September for iOS, iPad OS, watch OS. October for the Mac stuff. That's usually the how they do it. There'll be the iPhone 14 event.
Yep.
iOS 16 will come out about a week later, maybe less, and there'll be a there may or may not be a Mac event in October, but if there is one, it'll come out around there. And if not, it'll just come out some point. It's usually mid to late October,
Yeah.
depending on the timing. So yeah, I think that one of those things you can pretty much set your clock by
Okay.
are Apple's fall OS releases. It'll be like September 16th or 18th or something, somewhere in the middle of the month, and then October what?
Mid-October.
Yeah, 20th
Ish.
maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Fair enough. All right. Well, I think that was a pretty good rundown, at least, some of the things we've spotted in iOS 6 and iPad OS 16 and the new upcoming Mac OS Ventura. So I appreciate the insights, Michael. And if you're watching, first, thanks for watching. If you've got questions or comments, or if you're running one of the betas and want to weigh in, please leave a comment for us. If you're looking at us on the Computer World LinkedIn page, be sure to visit our YouTube page, subscribe, be sure to check the bell so you'll be notified when future episodes are showing up. And I guess until next week, thanks for watching.